Carter. It's a team from Toronto, Canada. We, the North, are now we, the champions.
What is going on, Raptors Nation? It is Luca here, back with the Raptors Nation podcast. Hope you're all doing well. In this one, I thought I would just kind of give you an off-the-cusp edition of the show, just give you my overall thoughts of the Toronto Raptors, as it is the early part of the season, but we're starting to see the direction this team is headed for this season. So yeah, just wanted to talk Raptors, some latest injuries that we've learned of, where I see this season headed, and then it's never too early to talk about the upcoming 2025 NBA draft, because it's starting to look like the Raptors could be serious players in that upcoming draft. So yeah, we're going to have a good show. Before I dive right into it, do me a solid, drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new, and you can find this podcast wherever you get your podcast. That is Apple, iTunes, or Spotify. So be sure to leave us a 5-star review, and your support of this channel is greatly appreciated. This pod coming to you every single Thursday, and in between, I drop just other types of content, looking at Raptors storylines or reviewing some of the Raptors games that have been happening. So let's get into where things stand with this Raptors team. Let's first start with the injuries, because there's a lot of them. We know the Raptors have dealt with a ton of injuries, and as a result, this team is in the mud. The Raptors are 2-10. They've lost 5 games in a row. They have the worst record in the NBA. And while that sucks, if you're looking at this thing half glass full, it's great news if you're on Team 10, because the Raptors really have put themselves ahead of the rest in terms of giving themselves a lead if they are trying to lose a bunch of games going forward and put themselves in the best position to land a top 5, top 3, hell, even win the draft and get the number 1 overall pick. So the Raptors, they are at the bottom, and they may in fact continue to be at the bottom until guys do come back. And we did learn some new updates regarding some Raptors players who are on the sidelines right now, most notably Scottie Barnes, as he was seen at practice with a black mask. Aaron Rose of Sports Illustrated putting this out on X. So if we see Scottie Barnes with a black mask, that would be pretty epic. We know LeBron James had an epic run with his black mask back in the day. So I'm all for black mask Scottie Barnes. But Barnes, he has missed the team's last 8 games. He's going to continue to be out. He's working his way back from an orbital bone fracture. Won't require surgery, which is great news. So that means Barnes is going to be back sooner rather than later. Obviously, if he needs surgery, that would have set him back even more. But he has still not been cleared for contact, and he will be reevaluated next week before the team sets a timetable for his return. So if I had to guess, I would say we could see Scottie back before the end of November. I think Scottie, he's going to get reevaluated next week. If things go well, we could see Scottie Barnes back before the calendar flips to December. And, obviously Scottie was playing very well. He had that unfortunate incident with Nikola Jokic, got an inadvertent elbow from Jokic, and Barnes has been on the sideline since. So hopefully we do see Scottie back soon. And we'll see if he does, in fact, wear a mask when he does officially return to action. The other Raptor who has just been, he just can't catch a break. He's just been receiving a ton of bad news lately. Emmanuel Quickley, he came back from his pelvic injury, and then he suffers another injury. He suffered an elbow injury in that game against the Lakers, that blowout loss, and now Quickley is going to be out for at least the next week. He was working out while wearing a protective sleeve on his left elbow. So he's going to be working his way back from a UCL sprain, and he'll be reevaluated next week. And that's when the team's going to decide what's next for him. So that's just a blow for Quickley, right? You spend all that time working your way back from the pelvic issue. He gets back, plays in a couple games, and now he's on the shelf again. So that's tough for a player. I mean, anytime you come back from injury and then you re-injure yourself again. It just puts yourself in such a bad flow. And hopefully for Quickly, he's not out for too much longer. He can come back, and that's it in terms of injuries for him, because Emmanuel Quickly, even going back to last season, you want to just see him play in a consistent string of games here. You don't want to see him constantly in and out because, again, it's tough for a player to get into the rhythm of things. And really, it's just been frustrating that we haven't seen Quickly, Barrett, Barnes, Grady Dick all play together. Like, it's crazy that we have not seen that over the course of a big sample size, at least a few games. Like, it's just been tough because it's like one guy's out, the other guy's out. So that's the thing. You want to see everybody come back. So hopefully Barnes is back before the end of, he's back before the start of December, I would say end of November, and hopefully Quickly's back sometime next week would be best case scenario. But again, we got to wait for a more appropriate update on Quickly by the team next week. Bruce Brown is progressing. He's still waiting to make his season debut with this team. Of course, he had knee surgery in the offseason, working his way back from that. He's been cleared. He has yet to be cleared for contact per Aaron Rose. And then Kelly Olynyk has also not been cleared for contact. It's been really strange with Kelly. It was kind of one of those things that you didn't know what he was dealing with until later on, because I thought Kelly was healthy going into the season. Clearly he wasn't, and he has not played in a single regular season game yet, as he's been dealing with a back injury, and that's kept him out since the preseason. And then finally, another unfortunate incident in a player that can't catch a break. Jacoby Walter re-injured his AC joint, and he's going to have a follow-up appointment on Tuesday before the Raptors do make an update on his health status moving forward, again, per Aaron Rose. So the Raptors, they're down a bunch of bodies, and obviously, their schedule is not going to, it is going to lighten up compared to what it was before, but still a couple of tough matchups upcoming. And when you're not fully healthy, it's going to be tough to win these games. So hopefully the Raptors can be healthy soon, because the fact of the matter is they've lost 5 in a row, and they are definitely on the decline in terms of what we've seen from them. Their defense has been terrible. Offense, the last game was terrible. I mean, outside of Grady Dick, the offense just sputtered. There was nothing going on. RJ struggled mightily, and that's going to happen. I mean, when you're missing a bunch of guys, 2 of which are your main pieces of this team with Barnes and Quickly, I mean, they're your starters. You're going to hit a wall, and it's not going to be pretty at times. And we saw it in the last game when the Raptors hit a wall, and they just did not look good in that loss. I mean, the only silver lining was Grady Dick. He continues to impress for this Raptors team, as Grady Dick dropped a career high against the Bucks in that NBA Cup game. But you're going to need guys back if you want to see this team start to win these games. If you want to see this team start to win these games, because I've been pretty vocal about this. If you don't know my take on this just yet, I'll let you know what it is right now. I do think, where the Raptors stand right now, it would be in their best interest to not go for it and not try to win a bunch of games and kind of continue to see the L's pile up, because, it's going to suck now. Nobody likes to sit through losing seasons. Nobody likes to cheer for a loser. But at the end of the day, it's all about eating dirt right now, suffering now, but putting yourself in the best position moving forward. And I think the Raptors are in such an ideal situation now. I talked more about this in greater detail in the last video I posted, or the video before that, when I said the Raptors have set themselves up perfectly, because it doesn't happen too often, guys, where your team positions itself at the bottom and your team has a chance to land a blue chip, top tier prospect in a very good draft. The Raptors are looking at that opportunity right in front of them. They have it right there. The Raptors are dead last. And if they keep losing now, you're going to build a little bit of breathing room from some of the other teams. And, you look at some of these other teams that I personally thought were going to be at the bottom. They're winning games, and it's good to see. The Blazers have won a couple in a row. The Nets have been winning games. I thought they were going to by far be the worst team. So the Raptors, and again, I know it doesn't mean anything, because it all comes down to the luck of the draw and how many times have the Pistons been shafted. They had the worst record and they never got the first overall pick. But it's a different situation this time around, because even if the Raptors do have the worst record, let's just say, or one of the bottom 3 records, and they don't get the number 1 pick, it's okay, because I don't know if you guys have looked ahead yet, but this is a highly touted 2025 NBA draft class. There are a lot of gem players, guys who can be immediate impact players for your franchise in the top 5. So if the Raptors secure a top 5 pick, they're going to be in a really good position. So my point is, if you were ever going to suck, this is going to be the season. And the fact that the Raptors do have their pick, they paid up to the San Antonio Spurs last season, even makes it that much more enticing. Because, as I said it previously, yeah, you want to see guys come back. You want to still see player development. I'm not knocking that. And we have been seeing player development, which is great. But to rack up essentially meaningless wins, to put yourself in a play-in just to go one and done in the play-in, and then you miss out on what could have been, that's not the right approach for this team. And the Raptors need to be crystal clear with what they're trying to do now, because they are in such a prime position to start the season. And they really got to look themselves in the mirror here and say, okay, like, what is this ultimate goal? And if the ultimate goal is to add another blue chip prospect, then you got to do this thing right. You got to put yourself in a position where you're not winning a bunch of games. You get busy at the deadline, offload some pieces of getting assets back in return, draft capital, which in theory is going to make you worse now, and you put yourself in a position where you can land a top 5 pick. Because, guys, right now, going back to what I was saying before about the Raptors being in actually an ideal position. Okay, look at the East, for example. So the Raptors are 2-10. The team ahead of the Raptors, the Sixers, 2-9. The Sixers aren't going to be at the bottom for long. They're getting guys back. Wait until Embiid gets into rhythm, barring injury, of course. The Sixers are not going to be at the bottom. They're eventually going to figure it out. I believe the Sixers are going to work their way back up. It's still early in that sense. The Milwaukee Bucks are 4-8. They've won 2 in a row. They're not going to be at the bottom. I think they're not going to be a contending team, but they're going to work their way up. Then you got the Wizards at 2-8. But then beyond that, the Hornets 4-7. Maybe they fall back. But then the Pistons have been winning games at 5-8. The Nets, like I said before, 5-7. Like, I thought those teams were going to be flat out terrible out of the gate. So you want to see those teams win. So really, what I'm trying to say here is, in the East, I think it's going to come down to the Raptors and Wizards if things keep panning out the way that they have been in terms of who's going to be the worst team in the East. And then you look on over to the West, and the other team that I think is truly going to be bad are the Utah Jazz and Pelicans, because they've been decimated with injuries. But then if they get guys back, they could potentially work their way up. So, and then the Blazers, they've won some games in a row. They're 5-8. So let's just call it Blazers, Pelicans, Jazz, Raptors, Wizards. Let's say those are truly the 5 worst teams in the NBA right now and moving forward. I think that's realistic, because I do see the Pistons being better. I think the Hornets are a better team. So the Raptors would find themselves as one of the 5 worst teams, in theory, giving themselves a good shot at securing a top 5 pick. And again, you're not compromising player development, because you're still seeing Grady put up a career high 32 points, wowing people. You're still seeing Abaji blossoming into a key rotation piece. And it's great to see, because I was so critical of Abaji, and I've now been shut out by what I've seen from him. So you're still getting the necessary growth from these guys. The only thing is, are the Raptors going to be able to remain bad when Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickley, and this team gets fully healthy? That's going to be the big question. So you know what? Let's look ahead. Let's look ahead to the Raptors schedule here. And they got the Pistons on Friday. They're going to be shorthanded. They got the Celtics, the Pacers, the Timberwolves, the Cavs, who are undefeated right now. And then it gets a little bit easier for them, because then they take on the Pistons. Again, Pelicans were decimated. Heat don't look really good this season. And then Indiana. So the next 5, I mean, the only winnable game is going to be Detroit. You're still going to be an underdog in 4 out of the next 5 games. So you can continue to put yourself in a hole. And then let's just say at the end of November, going into December, you get Quickley and Barnes back to open up the Raptors play Heat, Pacers, OKC, Mavs, and Knicks. So that's still a pretty difficult 5-game stretch, all things considered, before you get Brooklyn. And then you have the Rockets, who have looked a lot better, the Knicks, Grizzlies, who should be relatively healthy at that point, Hawks, Celtics. And then that's basically wrapped up your 2024. So it's still a relatively tough schedule ahead. So we could look at this Raptors team just being way further down, a lot more losses in the loss column before we turn the page to 2025. And then I think if the Raptors are still at that point sitting dead last or as one of the worst 3 records in the league, and you flip the calendar to 2025, then make no mistake about it, they need to go for it at that point if you're entering the new year as a bottom 3 team. So unless they get guys back relatively soon, next week, the week after that, and they put together a bunch of wins, if they keep losing a ton to end out this month in December, Raptors just gotta, they gotta just say, okay, to hell with this. We're all in on the 2024 NBA draft. And personally, that's what I want to see. I know it sucks. Nobody wants to see what we saw the other night against the Bucks replicated. I know they're going to lose a lot of interest. You can say it's not good for business, content. What are Raptors YouTubers going to talk about? At the end of the day, it's not about that. It's about what's in the best interest of this team. And this is coming from a guy who covers the Raptors for a living. I'm telling you how it is when it comes to this Raptors team. If the Raptors want to put themselves in the best position and they want their future to look golden, it's about eating dirt now and getting one of those top 5 picks. Because for the Raptors to miss out on that, especially when they got a leg up with how poorly of a start they've gotten off to, with how tough their schedule is, with the injuries, you never want to see injuries, but they've happened. It's like that's the world we live in. It's the reality. The Raptors are dealing with injuries. You got to capitalize on it for future game. So that's my final take on that. And that's going to lead me to get into the 2025 NBA draft. And ESPN put out a mock draft the other day, which I found pretty interesting. Let me see if I can do this. Share my screen here. Not really a share the screen kind of guy, but we're trying some new things here over on StreamYard and the pod. All right, so here we go. This is ESPN's 2025 NBA mock draft. There's going to be a billion editions of this as we move along the season. But I just wanted to get into some of the prospects for now, kind of what to look out for. So anyways, Cooper Flagg, he's the consensus number 1. He's really good from Duke. And really, I mean, Raptors fans are probably going to want to start watching some of these college teams that, the Raptors could potentially pick a player from, Duke being one of them. And Cooper Flagg, he's going to be the main prize. Capture the flag. You've heard all the buzzwords of the lingo. And ESPN has the Wizards capturing the flag, getting Cooper Flagg. So that's who's projected to go number 1. Number 2, I like this player a lot. Ace Bailey, Rutgers. This is a guy I've been watching more of lately. Got to definitely tune into more Rutgers games. But Ace Bailey, the type of prospect that, can turn around a franchise. He's projected to go number 2. And then ESPN has the Raptors number 3, and they have Dylan Harper. So another Rutgers guy. He's a point guard. He's a shooting guard. And basically what they write here, just to read it, a slew of injuries has opened the door for Toronto's young core to see significant action, which should benefit the Raptors in the long term and position them nicely at the top of the draft lottery, a place most expect to find them in May. Adding star power alongside Scotty Barnes will surely go a long way in the rebuilding effort. Part of Harper's appeal is his intrinsic versatility. He is a talented scorer and passer and has the size 6'6" and strength to defend multiple positions at a high level. Harper was steady in his college debut and will draw plenty of eyeballs this season alongside Ace Bailey as scouts home in on Rutgers in the coming months. NBA teams will want to garner a better understanding of Harper's projection as a lead guard, his scoring in the paint, and what caliber of shooting he is. He was a career 34% shooter from 3 and 62% from the foul line in the Nike Elite Youth Basketball League. He has a major platform to answer those questions at Rutgers. So I'd be good with any one of these top 5 picks. I'm not going to get it super into it now. I just kind of wanted to put this out there just to see or show you guys what ESPN has. So yeah, I mean, if the Raptors can land, ideally right now is obviously Cooper Flagg. Other than that would be an Ace Bailey. They got Harper third. I think that's fair. Another intriguing guy is VJ Edgecombe. I watched a ton of his highlights. This dude can play. He's from Baylor. They got him going to the Blazers, and then they have the Pistons getting another pick here, getting the Frenchman. And then just to move along here, Spurs, they have Lanny 6th. Wow, the Spurs have 2 picks? Wow. Oh, yeah, because the other one's via Atlanta. Wow, the Spurs can continue to just add on riches here. They got the Pelicans. Wait, the Spurs have another. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, via Chicago. The Spurs are. Man, I thought OKC has a bright future. Spurs are up there too. OKC, they're gonna be crazy too. But anyways, yeah. So basically, the Raptors, they're projected to have the 3rd pick, Dylan Harper, and really, I mean, that's already started a narrative or discussion. And I kind of brought it up when I did my piece on Grady Dick the other day. It's a good problem to have, but it's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be an interesting decision because let's just say we're playing hypothetical. We're looking down the line here. Let's say the Raptors do get a top 5 pick, right? And let's say they get one of these dynamic players. They get a dynamic guard in a Harper or even Bailey. Like, who goes to the bench? You look at this Raptors starting 5 right now. Like, who goes to the bench? Jakob Poeltl, I think they're going to end up trading him at the deadline. That's my prediction. Scotty Barnes, he's starting for sure. I mean, that's a non-negotiable. Emmanuel Quickley, you wouldn't have committed all that money to Quickley. You basically said, like, you're our franchise's future point guard to have him come from off the bench and be a 6th man. When he just got promoted from off that role to become a starter coming on over from the Knicks. So I don't see them benching Quickley. Grady Dick or RJ Barrett. That's ultimately what it comes down to, right? Assuming the Raptors fall and they take a center, which they're not in this situation. They could also go small, but you're not going to play Scotty at the 5. Like, that's not going to make any sense over the course of a whole season. So really, yeah, it's RJ or Grady. And I already said in that Grady Dick piece, like, I'm not benching Grady Dick. What Grady Dick has done so far has been unbelievable. He was leading all sophomores in scoring through the first 12 games of the season. And then it took a Victor Wembanyama 50 piece to put Wemby ahead. So now it's Wemby 1, Grady 2. But still, the fact that Grady's the top of that list, Grady Dick, he's breaking out. He's already put up 3 30-point games in his first 12 games as a start. Like, that's insane for this season. Grady Dick averaging 20.1 points. He's shooting at 37.3% from 3. He can still get better there. 44.8% from the field. 2.6 rebounds, 2.3 assists, and he's really been thriving as the Raptors scoring option here, one of their main scoring options with all the injuries they've had. And I said this in the previous video, the fact that Grady was able to do what he did against the Bucks after the fact that the Bucks knew Grady was going to be the guy that they got to watch out for on the Raptors offense, and he still put up that type of performance. He was getting to the free throw line. He got there 16 times. Like, Grady Dick has become and shown that he's a 3-level scorer. So I really like Grady Dick's game. I like what it's blossoming into. I like the fact that he stretches the floor. He's a 3-point shooter. That's his true DNA. I would much rather have that in my starting lineup. So then that really opens up a can of worms with RJ Barrett, because Barrett is going to want to be a starter. Barrett, you don't have to renegotiate a new contract just yet, but are you really going to have a happy Barrett come from off the bench and then pay him what he's going to want to get paid to be a bench guy? So that could open the door to a potential little dilemma that the Raptors then got to figure out of, like, okay, do we have to now maybe move somebody? Because again, it's a good situation to be in. You always want to add good young talent, but I'm not benching Grady Dick. I really think Grady Dick, from what he's shown us, is a future starter on this team, and he's the perfect guy you want with other stars to make it all work. Could you imagine Scotty with the guy they draft? He becomes a star level player, and Grady, like that's her core right there. And then hopefully Quickley can become that point guard you want him to, and you want Quickley to be more of a, show you more playmaking and get others involved. Because I didn't like that. What game was it? The Lakers game. they were ignoring Grady Dick in that second half. It was like Quickly and RJ were just putting up a ton of shots and missing a ton of shots. Grady got off to that hot start, and then they just forgot about him. You don't want that. You want Quickly to, be almost a pass first guard in this situation if they are able to get another dynamic player in the draft. And then you could work with that. And then you got to figure out where you're going to do at center. And again, a possibility is too, you could keep Yak. But then, RJ, he's the odd man out in this situation, in my opinion. And then you got to figure out what you're going to do with him. You either got to sell him on the bench role, or you might have to figure out a trade, because you can slowly work the new guy into it. Maybe it doesn't start next season, but you're obviously going to, if you land a top 5 pick in this draft, you're obviously drafting a guy who you believe can be a future star alongside Scotty Barnes. That would be the goal with how deep of a draft this is looking to be, or how talented of a top 5 this draft is looking to be. So just some food for thought. And it is going to be interesting once we get to that point. And, it is an interesting talking point right now. But guys, that is going to conclude today's show. I said I was going to keep it relatively short. I think I'll end it here. But guys, let me know your thoughts. Where do you stand with this Raptors team? How do you think they should proceed? What are your thoughts on the Raptors' long-term outlook with, their starters, who could come off the bench, all that stuff? Let me know your thoughts, guys. Drop a like in the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. And once again, leave me a 5-star review wherever you get your favorite podcast. Leave this podcast a 5-star review. And, if you leave me a 5-star review, you leave the podcast a 5-star review. So you know what I mean. It all helps a ton. That is it for me, guys. Luke signing off. Thanks so much for watching. The Raptors will be in action against the Pistons tomorrow night, and then they will take on the Celtics on Saturday. Until next time, stay safe.